questions to get to know the film better. And Zack, you have portrayed like vast and really diverse universe in the cinema for almost 20 years. And you almost wrote like 500 pages of mythology for this movie. So we want to know, and I wanted to ask you, where does the imagery comes from, and what really drove you to tell this story?
Yeah, I mean, for this one, it's been kind of boiling for a long time. You know, famously, I think I've talked about it maybe being a Star Wars movie, talked about, you know, it as a pitch at school when I was in college. So it's been around. I think what happened with it recently is we finished Army of the Dead. I was talking to my partners at Netflix, and we were talking about like, what do you want to do now? And I said, oh, I don't know. Maybe we do a sequel to Army, or maybe I have this other crazy idea. And I pitched them, you know, it's a pretty straightforward concept, it's very clean, and they were like, that sounds great, let's do it. So it was at that moment that I realized that there was going to be a ton of work to do. Because the problem is, I think, not a problem, but the challenge when you make a story like this, it's like a giant myth-building, world creation thing, is that, especially if there could possibly be, you know, more than 2 movies, you know, that there's like a whole universe, you have to start to paint the mythology in all the corners. You have to make it all, you don't want to catch yourself out, like where you don't have an answer to a problem. And I think that was, for me, the real work of this world. Like, we created a lot of the mythology, and by mythology I mean like real myth of the world, that the mother world's backstory had to be all figured out in order for you to understand what they wanted to accomplish as far as their conquest of the universe, how characters like Sofia's character might get swept up in that conquest and then maybe turned into a vessel for their conquest. And so, you know, these child soldiers or whatever they're doing, and so I had to make sense of why would they be doing that? You know, I can't just simply say they want power or they want, you know, resources. I mean, you can't say that, of course, but there has to be a why, you know. So in the sort of figuring out the why of the mechanics of the universe, you know, you do a lot of myth building, world building. We did a lot of, like, whether it be symbolisms, the symbols of the mother world's historical, and there's like 2 periods that we had to, like, the sort of the pre-Belisarius period and then Belisarius's sort of reign, which has only been a short reign, but how the iconology changes when Belisarius comes in. Belisarius is ranting, but anyway, the point is that yes, we did a lot of work, and but a lot of that work and a lot of sort of time we've spent with it has really paid great dividends, because the world, you know, we haven't really come up against the thing that where we contradicted ourselves. Not yet, anyway, I'm sure it's going to happen, but well,
you gave us quite like complex stories to defend. It wasn't just a go-to simple, like, I feel like a lot of the time I see stories, it's like copy and paste from like one storyline to another, and I feel like this was pretty unique, even though it's a sci-fi, it's fantastical, it's beautiful, and it's like, we have like, it's about gathering soldiers to go and defend something, and then there is an entity that is negative, that is daunting us, but individually every single person has a very complex human story that I think is quite relatable.
And I think it's really clear that you really dominate from A to Z everything about the universe. And Sofia, now that you mentioned